This past week, we saw the New York Rangers end up signing two different prospects from college that will be joining the Hartford Wolfpack for the rest of this season, which I think is a very nice sign for this Rangers team, who obviously need to continue to try and develop more prospects. They have not done a great job at developing prospects and young players over the last while. I would say I think most Rangers fans would agree with me on that. You take a look at guys like Alexi Lafreniere, Keandre Miller, Capo Caco. There have been a lot of guys that maybe haven't taken those steps in their game and haven't quite gotten to the levels that some of us and most people kind of expected at one point or another. So in today's video, I figured we'd take a look at these two very interesting prospects. Both players I think are really and truly kind of top five prospects in the entire Rangers system right now. So these are two very promising and good prospects who are also both very close to being NHL ready and could both have a, somewhat decent shot at possibly kind of really competing for a NHL spot for next season, the 2025-2026 season. So let's get right into it here and take a look at these two prospects. And first off, let's take a look at the forward prospect, and then we'll take a look at the defenseman after. But first off here, the forward prospect, I would say, is the best center prospect in the Rangers system right now. Out of all Rangers prospects, he is the best one, and that is Noah Laba, who just came over from Colorado College in the NCHC, obviously college hockey, and he ended up already playing in 2 games with the Hartford Wolfpack and ended up scoring a goal in his first game as well. It was a nice little breakaway he got there, using his speed there, using his skill, and ended up making a nice move there and scoring. Obviously, that was a very nice thing to see in his first career pro hockey game. He gets his first career goal/point there, which was very nice. Like I said, he added some good speed there, a good, nice little move. And, this is a player who is 6'2". He's got some really good size to him. And we know the Rangers need some more kind of talent down the middle there, need some more centermen. And this is exactly the kind of player that I think fits kind of what this team could potentially want to have for next season on that third line. This is a guy who I think is pretty much NHL ready. I think he definitely will have a realistic shot at possibly competing for a kind of third line spot on this team, maybe down the middle there at that center spot for next season. We'll have to wait and see what happens in this upcoming offseason. But if the Rangers don't go out there and clearly kind of address that third line center spot, I think Noah Laba could potentially be that guy. He's 21 years old, turning 22 in August. He's played, 3 seasons now in college, so he's got some experience playing against some older players. Obviously, some guys in college are starting it into their kind of mid to later 20s, so you can see some older kind of guys at the points there. So he's playing against some, older players at some moments there. Obviously, he's 6'2", 192 pounds, right-handed shot, has that good kind of size and frame there for the NHL level. He is known as being a pretty kind of physical guy at moments. He definitely plays a really solid kind of all-around defensive game while also having some pretty high-end skill as well. This is the player who consistently was around kind of that point per game mark in Colorado the last 2 seasons there with Colorado College. So he's obviously a very talented prospect, was the assistant captain as well, one of them this past season with Colorado College. Ended up putting up some pretty solid numbers as well. This past season had 29 games played with Colorado College, 10 goals, 16 assists, 26 total points, and last season had 36 games played, 20 goals, 17 assists, 37 points. And then his first season there back in 2022-2023, his first season at college, ended up having 35 games played, 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 total points. And he's also not been on a necessarily great, Colorado College team. He has been for pretty much 3 seasons now. One of, if not like the kind of best player for that team. So he's really been kind of one of those top players on that team. He's, I think, played a pretty good overall kind of game. I think he has that kind of really solid two-way game there. He's good defensively, good offensively, can obviously play a pretty physical role as well, which we know the Rangers can definitely use more of. So I think he profiles as being a phenomenal, third line center. I think that's kind of what his play style is. Maybe he shows a little more kind of upside offensively to kind of contribute maybe as a second line guy one day if he really can hit all his kind of, steps during his development. But I think this guy could be a true potential steal. He was a former 4th-round pick by the Rangers back at the 2022 NHL Draft with pick number 111 overall. He also got to represent Team USA back at the 2023 World Junior Championships there, where he ended up having 1 game played, but obviously still won the bronze with the team there, so at least got to play a little bit. But this is a guy who I think is very, very talented, and especially for being a 4th-round pick, is looking like a phenomenal prospect. Now, Obviously, it kind of depends on what he's going to do over the next while here in his development to see how much of an impact he can really have at the NHL level. But I think this is a guy who has all the tools to be a great NHLer. He's got the size there. He's got the defensive game for a centerman. He plays a pretty good offense game as well. He definitely has some high-end skill. He's got some really good speed for his size there. I think has all the talent in the world to get the job done at the NHL level. I don't think he's going to be some, elite kind of high-end offensive guy, but I think his game really fits that kind of middle six kind of role potentially very well. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how he develops, but I am excited to see what this player could possibly do even next season on the New York Rangers. I would definitely imagine he's going to have an opportunity to make the roster. It just kind of depends on whether or not he does. But this is a guy who we very well could end up seeing on the New York Rangers at some point next season, and definitely could be a guy fighting for a full-time role next season as well, with him already, turning 22 in this summer. He's already getting up there in age a little bit there. For still a prospect, he's very young, and obviously having 3 years at college, I definitely think could be a very good thing for his development. He's getting some pro games now with Hartford. Like I said, already has that 1 goal in those 2 games played with them. So I think he's already off to a pretty good start there in pro hockey. And if he can continue that into this upcoming offseason there, have a good kind of development this offseason there, he could take some big steps and maybe be a full-time guy for the Rangers next season. And last season as well, back in the 2023-2024 season, ended up winning a few awards as well, being 2024 Second Team All-American, NCHC Defensive Player of the Year, and winner of 3 Stars Awards. So obviously, that's pretty good stuff there. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award, which is not bad at all. Like I said, he's obviously a very good kind of two-way center, which is not a bad fit for that kind of third line role. So that's kind of why I do think he could end up being a very solid third line guy. And if he can develop more offense, which I definitely think he has the potential to do, maybe he could end up being a top 6 caliber centerman at the NHL level. It would not be the most shocking thing in the world with his size, his talent, his speed, his physicality, his all-around game. I think he's such a great player and definitely has a lot of potential to do a lot of damage at the NHL level. And next up here, we have defenseman Jackson Dorrington, who I'm going to be honest, I know a little less about than a guy like Noah Laba because of Jackson being picked up fairly recently, as he was one of the pieces that came over to the Rangers in that JT Miller trade there with the Vancouver Canucks. We obviously saw, a first-round pick, Philip Hedl, and defense prospect, Victor Mancini go to the Canucks, where the Rangers, got back Eric Brandstrom, who's no longer, with the team, but they also got back JT Miller and prospect Jackson Dorrington, which I think he is a pretty solid prospect as well. Some fans are pretty disappointed when they saw Victor Mancini get moved away, but I think Jackson is a pretty solid defense prospect there and is a guy who I think is pretty close to being NHL ready as well. This is someone who turns 21 in mid-April there, so turning 21 fairly soon. He's 6'2", 192 pounds there, left-handed shot defenseman, so has some pretty good size there. He's a former 6th round pick, number 176 overall, back at the 2022 NHL draft from the Vancouver Canucks, and this is what elite prospects had to say about him around his kind of draft year. They ended up saying the constants in Dorrington's game are the intelligence across all 3 zones. Defensively, he eliminates off-puck threats and times his engagements at the moment of least resistance, complementing his robust style. In transition, he steps inside, cuts around forecheckers, and passes to the middle. He's an advantage creator up the rink, and he's an instinctual activator defined by his constant weak side activation from the point and bolstered by his give-and-go style. So, from what I can kind of gather, about his kind of play style, Jackson Dorrington's kind of play style there is he's a solid kind of all-around defenseman. He's not elite in kind of one area, but it seems like he's a solid defensive defenseman. He can move the puck, make those breakout passes, which we know this Rangers team can definitely use a, solid defensive guy who's also a bit of a puck mover. But the good thing about him as well is he does have that 6'2" size there, is somewhat physical, and also has a solid offensive game as well. This past season, his stats with Northeastern University are pretty solid there. He's got 37 games played, 2 goals, 13 assists, 15 total points. And last season with Northeastern ended up having 33 games played, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 total points. And in his first season there as a freshman back in 2022-2023, ended up having 35 games played, 6 total assists for 6 points. So overall, I think it seems like he's a pretty solid all-around defenseman. I'm excited to see what he can do with this team going forward into the future, can he kind of work towards making the spot for next season? Maybe not. I'm sure we'll have a chance to maybe compete for or at least get an opportunity, at some point next season there, whether it's right away or later on in this season there. We saw a guy like Victor Mancini, end up kind of getting a little bit of a go with the Rangers early on, so maybe he gets kind of the same look there. We'll have to wait and see, but I am excited to see what he can do, as the Rangers can definitely use someone like this, a guy who has that good all-around game there, has some good size, can play good defensively, contribute a bit offensively, and also move the puck while playing maybe a bit of a physical role as well. So that sounds like a pretty good all-around defenseman to me, and I'm sure the Rangers could definitely use another guy like this in the back end there. We know there's going to be some changes to the decor, and maybe a guy like Jackson ends up getting a spot there. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, because he is still quite young, but this is a guy who's going to be some solid depth at least for next season there, and then maybe in the future after that could end up making a real impact at the NHL level. And Jackson also did end up winning a couple awards as well over his college career, having a Hockey East Defender of the Week in November 27th there that week back in 2023. Ended up having a Hockey East All-Academic team twice there back in 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024. Back in last season there, had an Unsung Hero Team Award there, and also back in 2022, 2023, ended up having an ACHA/Crampade All-American Scholar Award as well. So very smart guy, it seems like, very talented hockey player, and I'm definitely excited to see what he can do potentially with this New York Rangers team next season. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, and also definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on this New York Rangers team as a whole. What are your thoughts on these two prospects, and also what do you want to see going forward? Do you want to see some more prospect content? Do you not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.